Here he comes. He's inside.
Hopefully this works.
You're inside. He got it.
Oh, it's working now, Mike, and we're live. We're back on another episode of the Social Kick Podcast. This is Brian Lundquist. I'm joined by a full crew today. We got Luke Paddington, Dr. John Mullen, Justin Wynn, and a guy that I've been wanting to talk to for quite a long time in my swimming career. And for a second here, Mike Bottom, I'm going to brag on you. You coached half of the Olympic gold medalists in the 50 from 96 to 04.
Yeah, but you know what he did as well? One of his swimmers took down Popov for the first time in the 50 free, Bill Pilzak. You knew that?
No, right. I did know that because he was part of building the Auburn dynasty that I was a part of in the early 90s.
Yeah, but can you imagine joining a legendary coach at Cal, Nort Thornton, who's been there since 1974 and taking up the co-head coaching role? And in doing that, see this young guy from Trinidad on deck one Saturday morning practice and go, wait, your car's broken down in Napa Valley? I'm driving up nearby with my family. I'll give you a lift an hour out of the way. I'll take you, no problem, Luke.
And then he takes you over to Michigan.
I forgot about that, Luke. Now I remember.
PTSD all again.
I was that guy.
That's the kind of human you are, and I've seen you do it in Michigan, taking care of all these swimmers, and I've gone to be to your house, and here you are taking Michigan back to the glory days.
Yeah.
Talking about glory days, it was my wife's birthday on Sunday. That was August the 2nd. You know what happened 40 years ago on August the 2nd? Somebody here became a U.S. Olympian in the 100 fly. 54.97, I want to say. And so I want to celebrate your 40th anniversary of being Olympian, Mike. So cheers to that, everybody. And then we got one more cheers we're going to do.
I left my lemonade outside. I got to get it.
You got to get your lemonade.
Go get it. Go get it.
Just walk with me before we cheers.
So Mike's the world team guy. He has cultures from all over the world. So he would know about cricket. And on your 50th, you raise your bat. This is our 50th episode. And in cricket, you raise your bat and go, boom, 15 not out. So that's where we are.
Everyone raise something.
I don't have any bats to raise.
I hope I don't lose you.
No, but cheers, Mike. It's so good to have you on here. And cheers to your drinks. What are you drinking? Lemonade? Boom.
Lemonade. Here's the crazy thing.
Nice.
Once you get all right, here we go. We're settled.
Oh, that's great.
Am I still in? Or I'm out?
Yeah, you did it.
You're good, Mike.
You did it. Cheers. Thanks for being on. We're pumped to talk to you. Luke, what are you drinking tonight?
I'm going to start with a beer bottle, but I'm going to jump into my Trini rum punch as well because I was drinking this last night and making sense. So if I try to make sense tonight, it'll be the rum punch. Okay?
It's all in your head. You don't rely on that. Justin, what are you drinking tonight?
You know me, kombucha. Today it's holy kombucha. It's a hibiscus sangria flavor. Usually I have the health aid, but whatever's in the fridge.
Change it up. There you go. I like it. John, what do you got?
I've already capped off the bottle I started with getting ready for this, but I can't pronounce where this scotch is from or what it is because I cannot pronounce many names at all. But we're working our way through it, and it's cask strength, so it's going to be a good episode.
That's a true statement if I've ever heard one. Well, I'm drinking the king of beers tonight.
Nice.
Budweiser.
Best label on a beer, right?
That's the best label on a beer. Come on, they pump themselves up. This is the famous Budweiser beer. How great is that? That's the way that
traditionalists.
That's the way that I would do if I were you, Mike Bottom, in recruiting. I would go like, you know what? This is the famous Mike Bottom recruiting. Okay?
I got an M on my shirt, M for Mike, Michigan. It's all good. It's the best logo.
Is that the way your Zoom calls are starting nowadays?
Yeah, I just got off one, so I had to wear the. You gotta support. You gotta support.
You're kind of like
I could say fight on, go blue. I could say Mighty Tigers. I could say what else? Go Bears, go Bears. So I'm looking forward to saying a few more as my daughters get older and whatever college they go to, I want to support it. So it's a good thing our college system.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. You've got to experience a lot of the different traditions, which is cool. But it seems like you carry your own tradition with you, because you got this thing where you're like a character in a cartoon where you got your outfit, you got your look, man. You got the button-down shirt, it's undone, the rolled-up sleeves. I like it. There's nobody else in college swimming who has like their look, and you've got a style.
Well, and that's at Michigan. That's at Michigan. I was a little different, At Cal, we wore Hawaiian shirts. Nort's. We stay with Hawaiian shirts, and and I think they still do have the Hawaiian shirts going to Cal. But at Auburn, we were a little bit different. We did some fun stuff there at Auburn too. So I think we were more, just the regular polos there at Auburn.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Polos in the South. So, Mike, we wanted to rewind the clock a little bit. Usually, we're asking guests about their last race, and I wanted to, as an elite swimmer yourself, I wanted to ask the same question of you. What do you remember about the close of your swimming career in your last race?
The last race I swam, I realized, sprint training is really good, but you have to have a little bit of background. I think it was a 100 butterfly, and it really, really, really hurt. I mean, my 100 flies always hurt, but this one started hurting at about the 50 and tying up for the last 35. Usually I tied up for the last 15 and fought to the end, but that one really hurt. So that was a memorable opportunity to hang it up.
Mike, was that trials in 84?
No. In 84, it was later than that. I was at Auburn, I think, when I was I think I was trying trials in 92. I think it was. But I was. The good thing about is really fast. I had the opportunity to be one of the first recipients of the dole. We called it the dole after the Aussies, giving away money from the government, but it was a dole. We we actually got money to swim, and I was one of the first group that got that in 1980.
Oh wow!
I believe it was 1980, yeah, and $3,000. That and making sandwiches. I made sandwiches. In between practices, literally made sandwiches, and that was and $3,000. And my sister helped me out, and I was able to train that summer. Things have changed a little bit. You don't have to make sandwiches anymore. I know Mike Cavic talks a little bit about doing clinics and things like that, and I think that's a great thing that.
So how did you guys support yourself, Mike, back then? You swam for AIA in the 79, 80. What did you guys do to survive? You had graduated.
Make sandwiches. Made sandwiches. Literally made sandwiches. That's
what
why I got paid.
Go to? What were you making? Let's hear it.
Well, I always like the turkey, avocado, sprouts, and cheese.
California man right there. That's for sure.
Yeah, that was always my favorite, and I sold that one big time. But there's a lot of different things that athletes could do now. There's we started a company, a guy named Bobby Sabulich. I think that you guys know Bobby, right? Yeah. We started this thing called Athlete Approved, and it was set up so that we would use products, we would sell products that were really good that the athletes used, and then when we sold them, we would give a percentage to the athlete that did the demonstration. And we're redoing that right now during the COVID time. Bobby really has stepped it up, and I think if you click on Athlete Approved, you'll see that there's some pretty good stuff on there now. And again, we're going to put some more athletes on there and cut them checks and try to get some money going to the athletes, and that was why we started the company, and then we both got real busy and couldn't keep it going. So,
hey, I want to ask. This isn't where we're going to go with this conversation, but what do you think the NCAA should do? What are your thoughts about pay for play, and thinking that line of thinking of as part of a business, you generate revenue and there's a kickback to the people that help generate it. I don't know how much revenue is being generated from college swimming. In fact, it's not. But what are your thoughts on athletes getting paid in college?
Well, I was always very thankful for the athletes that did draw the crowds and had the TV, and the football players and the basketball players, and some baseball or hockey, some of the other sports, because when you think about the big picture of college athletics, the money goes to support all the athletes, right? It's not just one sport, and I think that the hard thing is that we're getting to the point where it's always what about me, as opposed to what am I getting, right? I mean, the opportunity to go to college, and especially in this day and age with the cost of college, is incredible. And as student athletes, they get so much nowadays, right? I mean, they get so much. We feed them some more, and then we give them some money to spend. I mean, it just continues to go upward, and I think it's enough, truthfully. If someone wants to get paid to play, they need to go someplace to get paid to play. They don't need to go to school, right? Going to school is a privilege that we have in the U.S. Everybody comes to the U.S. because they can go to school and play the sport they love, and they can do that. And I think George talked a little bit about how we are just in process. This swimming thing is just a process, to go out to the next level, which is life, and it's a wonderful place to play, but there is a next level, right?
No, in fact, George put a video out last night, and he called you a hero maker. He says, and Bobby as well said you taught him to be an athlete in the water, but be an athlete out of the water. And he talks about his ventures because of his drive he got from being with you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Mike, I swam in Canada for university, so I swam in McGill in Montreal. You know Montreal well.
You did. Yeah. No, McGill. George's dad went to McGill.
That's right, and George was heavily recruited by Canada Swimming for a very long time.
Go Redbirds! Go
Redbirds! But we in Canada, they don't offer athletic scholarships.
Right.
Schooling system's great, it's affordable, but no athletic scholarships. So that was always a very difficult thing. I coached there for like a year afterwards, and it's really hard to recruit, not being able to offer people that education and that ability to swim at a pretty decent level in Canadian swimming. So it was a hindrance. I mean, we still got okay athletes, but I mean, it definitely hindered, I think, Canadian swimming to some extent, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I was in there was a meet, and I was swimming, and it was later in my career. I think it was in the late 80s, and I was traveling around, and we stayed at people's houses because we couldn't really afford hotels at that point. And I stayed with this family, and it was in Texas. And the father was kind of a gruff guy, and he smoked, and he had a scotch in his hand, and he just looked at me. He goes, "What are you doing swimming? You're 24 or 5 years old, and you're swimming. What are you doing? And then what is that?" And I go, and I got offended, right? I got a little upset because I was young, but he was right on, because he said, "You're playing. This is your playing," and I know that we can make a living now in swimming, and that's a great thing. And if that's all you're doing, you better be developing other things. And that's we had a guy come to Michigan and want to train with us. Michael Klee. I don't know if you know the name, Michael.
Of course, yeah.
Wonderful and incredible individual. Swam for Texas.
Yeah.
He came in and he wanted to train with us for the Olympics. And we said, yeah, that's a possibility here. That's definitely a possibility. And then and this is Josh and I, because we both have the same philosophy. Dr. Josh White, who's an amazing individual, we've been working together now for 13 years.
Wow.
That's crazy. He's the associate head coach on the men's side.
Yep.
But we sat down with Michael and we said, look, it's great that you want to do this. And what else do you want to do? And he sat for a while and he said, I always wanted to be a doctor. And like, boom. I mean, I just got so excited. I go, really? Go, and you can. We are going to do that, right? And you're going to swim and you're going to, So I said, go home. You can't come in and swim yet. We got to figure this out. So he went home. He came back the next week and he said, here's how I'm going to do it. And he had it all figured out. He took he hadn't even taken prereqs. not even a prereq. He took all his prereqs at Eastern. He got into Michigan. He's now finished he's got his MD. He's doing his orthopedics. He married Emily Bruneman, now Emily Bruneman-Klee.
Yeah.
They have a wonderful family now, and it's just it's a matter of understanding that swimming is a great tool to get you through to what is the next step, right? And it's a wonderful tool. You won't find a better place to learn, even in this environment when it's crazy. It's actually better to learn in this environment.
Yeah. Like that story is so indicative of what so many of your athletes have said about the way that you interact with them, the way that you coach, the way that you mentor, is that your philosophy is around connecting with the individual. And I'm curious, where did that start for you? How did you develop that skill set?
Well, I was never going to be a coach. That wasn't my intention. When I went to Auburn, I went there to get my degree in counseling. I had a guy named Ron Chalasa, and we were in Redwood City, and we started a company. And the company was to teach life lessons in camps or lesson settings. So we had the rainbow of life lessons, and red stood for reinforcement, orange for one team, and it goes through that. And so that was where we were going. And in the middle of that, I go, man, I need more education. I need to really understand a little bit more here. And Dave Marsh called and said, hey, do you want to join me at Auburn? And I said, I got this thing going here. But my brother and I were working together. I said, David would love to go. He would love to go. So David went out to work with Dave Marsh. And then, we had been working this business together, and Ron Chalasa, and we were having a great time. And he left, and I was lonely. I missed my brother. So I call him up. I said, hey, David, is there a spot for me out there? And this is David Marsh. He goes, no, we don't have a coaching spot, but we have a spot as a GA. And I said, that's exactly what I need. So it all worked out. So I went and started studying in counseling. And it was, I got my degree in counseling and started. There was a PhD program there that was in child development. And I didn't want to do that. I could have just gone right into it, but I wanted to get a sports psychology PhD. So and just kind of worked with different things. And Mark Schubert was out in USC, and we were talking, and he said, well, would you like to come out? And I said, yeah, I'd love to get a PhD so I went out there and started my PhD and worked with the sprinters out there. And, it all worked out. Gary Hall came out. There's a lot of people that came at USC then, and we won a national championship on the women's side. at that point. But I was trying to get my PhD and actually taught a class in sports psychology at USC. The professor I was working with, I was working with him, and he had a heart condition. And he said, "Look, Mike, you got to take over the class." This was like 2 weeks into the class. I go, "So you want me to teach sports psychology?" Said, "Yeah, here's the book." So, and it was great because, as I read through the book, it's, you all know how we do a lot of these things that they've formalized, whether it be visualization, or whether it be, what do they call it? Arousal regulation. That sounds a little funky, but
Yep.
that was the name of it. There's a lot of those terms, but we had all done it, right?
Yep.
So I started reading all this stuff about it, and then I was teaching, and it was so easy to teach because I just told stories. And I had this class that was to 100 some, undergrads, and it was so much fun. I just loved it, and that's what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do. But then the swimming thing kept going, and Gary was there, and I went, got to go to the Olympics, got to go do this and do that, and then I was almost finished. I had all my studies done. I had everything. My doctorate the study was done. It was, and we swim at NC2A's in Nort Thornton, one of my favorite people in the world. We talk regularly. Unbelievable man. Wonderful. And you guys need to get Nort on here.
All right.
Oh, I love it.
He was across the deck, and that was when Daniel Loader, remember Daniel Loader?
Of course, 200 freestyle, gold medalist.
Yeah.
New
He
Zealand.
joined Cal, and I was at USC with Mark. He joined Cal, and they were ranked number 1, right?
Yeah.
And so we went to NC2A's, and we were doing our thing, and Cal was just not doing well. They were like 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, somewhere in there. And I looked over across the pool deck, and I just saw Nort, and and you could see his face. And I said a prayer. I said, "Lord, if there's any way to help that man, I'm in.
Oh, wow.
And the next week, I get a call from my good friend. It says, "Hey, Mike, the assistant coach just resigned at Cal. You want in? You want in?"
Wow.
And I'm going, I got my PhD. I'm almost done.
You had just coached Dean Hutchison and Bill Pilsek to be one of the best sprinters in the world. Gary said they overachieved because of you. Why are you surprised? You were amazing back then, man.
Because he was working through something else, right? It had to be some conflict like you're getting to. You were working on this PhD, and then he got this offer. How did you make this decision?
Yeah. Right. I love coaching. I love coaching. But I love teaching. I love being on stage, and it was fun. So yeah, I went to Cal, and just had a lot of fun there as well. And
Totally.
It was play, right?
What's that?
You said it was play earlier. Swimming and being in swimming is like play.
It was play. I got to continue to play. Absolutely. And you said that you said something about a way to but was getting every time I meet these guys, right? And they all have so much. They're so different. I get so much from them, as an individual. I'm still great friends with a lot of my athletes. So anyway, I'm kind of hijacking you here. You were asking questions.
John was leaning in because John also did his PhD at USC. So you guys have a little bit in common there. And Brian did his undergrad at Auburn. So you guys have it in common there as well. So
and I gave you a ride to Sonoma.
You gave me a ride to Sonoma, and you want to go to McGill. I know it. So we're cool. Mike, you brought up a topic here which we've talked about recently, especially with people like Tom Shields and around mental health and George and his approach to swimming. George and I debated a lot of time about like the Art of War book, right? And having it back against the wall for that final battle. And some people want to be on that cliff's edge and know that they're gonna die if they don't put it all in. And some people can't deal with that. So, I mean, I don't know if I wanted to be standing on that block and be Maya Dorado and know what was happening next and I was chilled, or standing in that blocks and know that if I touch the wall 2/100 slower than the guy and I came fourth and the whole world judged me as a failure because of that and my funding was over and I had no more career. I don't know which one I would have reacted to. And which one, like, did I need to have just that precipice and swimming all or nothing, or I needed to have that wholesome body? And how do you know some athletes need that? Some athletes must not have that because it affects them. How did all of you work with that yourselves as swimmers? You know, it's a hard one, don't you think?
You know, the whole idea of the art of war. I just and this personally. I just think that book doesn't belong in what we're doing, right?
500 years old, 1,000 years old.
Well, it talks about the art of war, right? And I just don't think that's what we're doing. And yes, you know, Gary was up there with the red, white, blue stripes, all of that, and we did the thing. But is that really? I mean, I think George is the one that talked about it as just a show, right? This is just a reality TV show, right? And I don't know if that kind of mentality helps people develop into true champions,
right?
And I think that that what we're trying to do, and I know that what we're doing in our staff at Michigan, Rick Bishop works at Michigan. I don't know if you know Rick. He was he worked for USA Swimming, and again, incredible coach.
Mm-hmm.
But when I got to know him, and we synced up in an understanding of that this is a stepping stone, right? It's a really important stepping stone, and it's really important that they do well and they swim well, and that everybody get better. But what's really important is they learn how to get better. Right? They don't get better because I'm yelling at them or they're feeling the pressure of, if I don't do this, I'm not a person, right? I'm not validated. What we want them to do is do well because they're developing as people,
right?
And there's so much to develop as people, right? And the more you get to know these young men and women, the more excited you get to have them swim fast, right? You want them to swim fast. Why? You want them to swim fast because if they don't swim fast, they don't buy in to what you're selling. And what we're selling is that you have an incredible potential to be a champion to the world, right? And we talk about that. But if we tell them that, and then they swim like dog do, what are they going to do? They're going to go down to the Keys, maybe a little further than Isla Mirada, down to Key West, right? Yeah. And they're just going to hang, and they're having margaritas because I did that. I worked hard. I tried to make changes. I did what my coaches said. I worked with a team. Screw that. I never got any better. So the stakes are so high for us at Michigan to get them to achieve in the water because we're selling so much more around it. And we want them to buy that. We want them to buy that for their lives.
But it's a fine line too, Mike, though. Like, I wish I had more of a sense of urgency in my swimming. But I think, therefore, you're saying that it's like you need a coach to say, Luke, you're ready. This is the time. Give me that belief. Now is your time to get up there. And even though I have a master's and I have all these jobs, you also have to have the coach that walks that line to get you ready for that day as well. Not to like lay back in your laurels, don't you think? Like get that sense of urgency for the moment.
Oh
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to be able to step up on the block,
right,
and put your chest out or put your shoulders back, and be able to look to the left and look to the right and say, I could do this. Right? I could do this. Not, I'm going to do this because I'm a great swimmer, right? But I can do this, right? Because I believe in what I've done and who I am. I believe in my team, and I'm going to do this for my family or whatever, outside yourself, you're going to do it for my country, right? Great. Those are all great motivators. Yeah. And there's so many motivators. That's the great thing about what we do. There's so many motivators.
Well, I think even there's a lot of people that have plenty of motivation, but having confidence is a very different thing, and being able to show up in the biggest moments and have confidence. A lot of people are able to create it based on the training that they've done and the accomplishments that they've had, and then the mental fortitude that they have, and they kind of figure out that magic. But it also takes the right partnership for some with the right people and the people in your circle to be able to influence you and plant the right seeds in your mind. One of the things that like David Marsh told me, I remember it vividly. And what's so crazy to me is I actually have a photo exactly of this moment of my senior year swimming the anchor leg of the 400 freestyle relay. I didn't expect to do that. I had anchored the 200 free relay, but sort of a different dynamic in that race. We had a head-to-head battle with Arizona in the 400 free relay. And on paper, you would have said, I don't know what's going to happen. And I was supposed to go either second or third. And that's what I thought warming up. I go to put my suit on. I come back with the suit on. And then David hands me an updated lineup card that has me going last. And as a senior with a couple guys like Cesar Cielo and Matt Target on the team, dropping 40 points and 41, I didn't, I guess he, as a coach, he would have thought that could go one of two ways. But knowing that that's what I needed to know as an athlete was that could potentially be a sense of fear of the moment, that he came over to me and he said, he distilled it down to one thing. And he said, I need you to nail this start. And I said, okay. And all I thought about from that moment forward was nailing the start. And that compartmentalized the whole experience for me into focus on a single thing. And it took having, and I knew I had a ton of confidence in that because I had practiced it over and over and over again to nail starts between 0.08 and 0.12. So, we knew this, and David knew that about me. And so it was about having somebody in my circle who was also able to help me in that moment. And I think, that that's an important aspect of the coaching swimmer relationship as well, a huge piece of it.
What was the start? I want to know what the start was. What was the differential?
1.17.
Oh, you screwed it up.
But it was still
it was in the range though.
Well, we still had we had about 3/4 of a body length at that point in time.
Must be nice. Where's it at, Justin?
Did you have a jacket on?
No, it was before those days. But in the individual swim, I was 42 high. And then on that relay, I went 41.8. And, I didn't know that I had that swim in me. I don't know that he knew I had that swim in me.
But Brian, what David did to you was magic, because my coach did that to me as well. But he didn't tell me how to compartmentalize it and focus on one aspect. He just said, I want you to anchor. And I was the slowest guy in that relay. And I was on that block, and I was literally about to vomit on the guy who swam first. I was about, Leo, I'm going to throw up on you. I was vomiting because I wasn't able to hold that in. And it was that first place swimmer who was the captain of the team who literally slapped me and my ass or something, so my butt, and got me focused on the moment, and all the nausea got away. So I think that was the difference between what David did to you. That was clever. Mike, do you do that? Do you like help them just focus on one aspect or one thing?
as you were talking, Brian, I was thinking about a guy by the name of Bart Kizarowski.
Yeah, man. Poland.
If you remember him, he was a champion in the 100-yard at NC2A's one year. But then there's another story to that. But the things that you're talking about, he figured out, right? I didn't figure that out. And that's the way I learned, is from these great athletes telling me. He always had a little bit of problem when he got to the big race, because exactly what you were talking about, Luke, he was so nervous, right? And so we talked about different ways to do things. And, I tried to get him to empty his mind and blank his mind. And we did a little bit of visualization and all of that. But he got to the point where you were talking, Brian. He figured it out that if he focused on 2 or 3 little points in the race, kept his focus on that, he stayed relaxed, he stayed determined, he stayed focused, and he stayed confident. And it's just that one moment that where your confidence flexes, that then it's over, right? When you're talking hundreds of seconds, it's it only takes one moment, and you can get it back, but it's too late, right? So that was really, and David is brilliant. I'll tell you a story about David. You want to hear it? When I first got to Auburn, right? David had them take towels, put them around their shoulders, and walk around the pool with their shoulders back, right? And if they were laughing, they started laughing, and he goes, no, you need to own this. You need to own who you are. And it's a Superman cape, or Superwoman cape, or super person cape. But they were walking around, and that was the beginning of Auburn's dominance. Was an understanding of who each individual was, and then what they could do as a team, right? And that was so much fun to be in that place. We won our first SEC championship then. It was just awesome, and I learned so much from David. He was, amazing individual.
You mentioned that you learned a lot from your athletes. Which athletes would you say you learned the most from, and how did you translate that into future athletes at Michigan or any of your other places that you've coached?
Well, it started out with Dean and Bill at Auburn, and David Marsh, of course, a guy named Greg Smith, breaststroker out of Auburn. There's just a lot of great swimmers that, when we first started at Auburn, David, I kept asking Dave, hey Dave, can I get a group to just coach some sprinters, right? And at first he said no. He said no. But eventually he gave me a couple guys. He gave me 3 guys. One of them had half of one of his lungs removed that summer. His name was Dean Hutchinson.
Of course.
The other one was a guy named Bill Pilzik, who was an amazing individual and had some anger issues, right? But had never gone to an SEC championship. And the third was Greg Smith, who the way he thought was he didn't wash his socks for months before the race. You wore the same socks, right? So again, that just shows you, guys.
Well, that's what you learned. You learned not to wash socks.
So what we did, he gave them to me at the beginning of the season. We started having some fun. We started doing the things that sprinters do today. It was really the first sprint training group, I think, in college. You had Dave Salo, who's I was reading all Dave Salo's stuff and studying what Sprint Salo, what he was doing. And Aaron McGlisco was a great coach at that time who wrote the book, right? He had the book.
Swim Faster.
Swim Faster. I think it was Swim Faster at that time. swim fast, swim faster, and swim fastest, right?
Yeah.
I think it was swim faster.
Original.
I don't know. Maybe it was the first one. Who knows? But so that was a group. And that's where it all started, right? And that's where I started the learning. And you don't learn. I mean, it was experimental. We were, I had some theories based on my own training and my own not swimming fast in college. I swam faster before college in the 100 fly and after college in the 100 fly, and never swam my fastest times during college because we did the crank it up, the mileage type of training, right? And I swam some incredible swimmers, John Neighbor, there, and Rod Strachan, and there was just a whole lot of those guys that were there. And then my brother Joe was at USC. He was a year older, and he won the 50 free and the 100 fly, and he was an incredible sprinter. And but he never swam with the team. He would warm up maybe a little bit with the team, and then he would go over in his lane, and he would just do his thing. Right? I mean, and he would do his thing, whatever it would be. And he was so good that Coach Dalen just said, yeah, just let him. But Coach Dalen didn't have the understanding that maybe you ought to take care of your brother, right? Send your brother over. I was doing the 10-300s, right? And the 400s and all the crazy stuff with little rest and churning it up, and I just couldn't do that. So I just kept swimming. And finally my senior year in college, I just decided. I actually prayed a lot about it, and at that point I was a real strong Christian, and still am. But at that point, it was just like, allowed the creativity of what was inside to kind of come out. And I started doing things like, if we had a set of 10-300s, it would do 25 fast, 75 cruise, 25. The normal, the stuff that we would normally do to build sprinters' aerobic capacity as well as their speed and not ruin them. Started doing that kind of stuff, and actually brought my time back to close to where I was before college. But anyway, those were.
No, Mike, you brought up a couple of questions here. Let's segues, and I want to talk about your swimming experience and Joe as well. So my brother and I swam together. We swam for the same university as well. And he can never beat me in practice. His best times are better than me, but he can never beat me head to head. My last race in my career, I swam against him, and he kicked my butt. And he went on. He made the Sydney Olympic team, and that was my last race. I would say I had a mild case of pneumonia, but that's me being a pansy. But but you and Joe swam similar events, right? You both swam the 100 fly. Joe was a silver medalist in that 76. Joe, Joe was the first man to break 20, right? I mean, Joe's legit. Talk about, and you both made an Olympic team. I don't know when two brothers have made the same U.S. Olympic team in swimming. I don't know if it's happened much at all, if anything. Has it?
Well, Joe didn't make the 80 team. I beat him, right?
Yeah, you beat him, which is a big thing.
Yeah, and he was not happy about that. But he was my older brother, right? And my persona was that he was my older brother. He's going to beat me, and I was just happy with that position. Loved him very much. I love him very much, and watched, cheered him on, right? But he didn't have the same. He didn't have the same thing with me, right? He wanted to keep me down, And now I look back on it, he kept me down, So, and that was so. I mean, brothers. But he made the 50 free that time. 50 free wasn't an event, so they took him to the alternate Olympics, right, to Hawaii. And that's where we went. It was the alternate Olympics.
That's why he gets confused.
Yeah.
But in those trials, right, which was 40 years ago, Sunday past, The Olympics had happened a week beforehand. The Swedish world record holder went 54.9. You guys got up and just gun for that time. I'm sure you're like, I'm going to take down the Swede. And you outtouched the guy by 1/100th on the 100 fly. Mike, your swimmers have quite a penchant for outtouching each other and others by 1/100th, right?
Or time.
Very well.
Okay.
Few famous cases. How did you apply? Go ahead. I was going to ask, how did you apply? You yourself outtouched somebody by 1/100th to qualify for the U.S. Olympic team. I mean, you think about Milo and Michael. You talk about Gary and Tony, Gary and Duje. I mean, it's some legendary swims. How did you apply your experience to consoling, congratulating, dealing with that era?
Well, you got two different things you're talking about here. Is how has this happened over and over again with guys who train together, right? And then how do you deal with it on the other side of that, right? As a coach,
right?
Well, I mean, Dean and Bill tied at NC2As. They tied 19. They went 19-6. I think it was 19-6. So in the finals, right? And of course, Bill was never supposed to be. I mean, he had never made an S.
Right.
And that's a great story. You want to hear a great story? I'm going to segue here. Bill Pilsick. Bill Pilsick. Let's talk about Bill Pilsick. And Bill Pilsick, you talked about him at the very beginning. You said, the guy who beat Popov. He was the first guy to beat Popov. Yeah. But this guy was, he was destined to do nothing, right? And we had the sprint group, and all of a sudden Bill was there, right? And he started swimming faster and faster. But when it got time to select the SEC team, Bill was not on the team, right? And I, of course, argued for him with David. Hey, the guy's really fast. He's going to go really fast. And he had swum some really fast times, but David didn't, he's only one event, blah, blah. And that's just true because we were going for the win. So we set up a swim for Bill after the SECs. It was, right after the SECs, we were going to go and he was going to swim. Well, we won the SECs. So guess what we did after the SECs, right? It wasn't watch Bill swim. Yeah. Wow. He just, at some point, he just said something, in his Bill way. Forget that. And he used the F word. Forget that. I'm gonna make it on my own. And he did. He got up and he swam it. He made the standard. He went a 19.9 with all that craziness, right? Wow. And then at the beginning, I think it was 19.9. But at the there was like this whole thing that you got to write up. But who's this Bill Pilsick comes in, swims this swim afterwards? Sure. And so I took that write up and I said to Bill, "Hey, Bill, no one believes in you. No one believes in you." And you can see him start to bubble, and this is at NC2As, right? And he's just bubbling. And I hate to say it, and I wouldn't do that today, because he got angry. And at that point, I was kind of young, and I loved to see it, right? It's just like, get him pissed off. Let's get him. He got so mad. He got up there, and of course, led out the relay at a 19-something, and it was amazing. And then he made the final in the 50. And this is a guy no one had ever heard of. And then Dean made the final, and they both tied for the end. But those are the kind of stories that you remember as a coach.
Dean went to hospital. He said, Dean, it was long enough to take me to hospital. What's that story?
Oh, he was in the hospital all summer. He had half of one of his lungs removed because of a cancer. And I remember going into the hospital with him. And he wheeled him in. They wheeled him in, and I'm holding his hand, and he looks at me. He goes, "Just That's what he said to me. He's going in for surgery on his lungs because he's got cancer, and he's swimming. And of course, being the coach, we're going to do it. We're going to do it. And I didn't know what the deal was, but it was fun. We had a lot of fun together. We still do. I call him all the time.
Even Dean in those days was going 18s. I was looking at 94 NCAA results I don't know, a couple weeks ago. I think it was before we were going to talk to Gary, and I just couldn't believe it. That's crazy times those guys are going in those days. I obviously knew of them as legends at Auburn, but it's pretty cool to hear those stories. I'm curious, like I want to talk to you about some swimming technique and things, because when I knew of you, but our paths didn't cross until much later, and I never had the opportunity to be coached or instructed by you, but I got to know George pretty well, and through George and even others like Nathan and those whose paths I crossed would talk about your philosophy on freestyle. And at the time, I was also hearing this from the Auburn side too, but about the shoulder-driven freestyle and getting, using it as sort of a pendulum to get up and over the top and have that carry your momentum forward. I'm just curious about like some of the things that you've picked up and championed as your philosophy on how to swim fast.
Well, all of that all came from great athletes. It all came from great athletes, watching great athletes. The shoulder-driven freestyle. Again, the way that we work, the way the system works is you get great athletes, you figure out what they're doing. We had a lot of technology. There was, even at Auburn, there was a thing called, and it was Canadian, called the Sparta Speed Trainer. I don't know if you ever remember that, but it was something we went out to Canada, and I would do this. I would find whatever I could find that would measure things, whatever we could measure, right? Because that's the way you make changes. You don't make changes, and especially with high ego swimmers, you're not going to make changes to a person's stroke who's very invested in that stroke and in that, because that's who they are. They start to become how they swim. So in order to change it, there's got to be a way to show them, right? And my line to every swimmer has always been, hey, you have a really good stroke. It's really fast. You're fast. I have a thing I think might be faster. Might not be, but it might be. Would you be willing to learn it? And then we can measure it to see if it's faster. So I had to tell him, I had to figure out how to measure things. So we had all sorts of stuff.
Mike,
we had springs. We had also. Go ahead.
Mike, I was going to say Tourette's scientists came to Canada, and Tourette's, it is 93, 94, and Tourette's scientist, I forgot what his name was, and he came and he measured, and he went all around Canada filming and measuring the top sprinters in Canada. So guys. Yeah. Huh. Yeah,
we were using him. Actually, it was really interesting that you had mentioned. We call him Dr. G. He was working at the. Yeah, that's how I got to Michigan. Is Gary hated the Colorado Springs. It was opposite of who Gary was. He put him in a put him in a cage, right?
Yeah.
Go, Gary.
But I had and I knew in order to get Gary to make changes with his stroke, I had to do this, right? We had to go through these, the process, right? I had to be able to say, here's what I think, here's what you're doing, here's what I think is faster.
Right.
Let's measure it, right? So one year, it was before the Olympics. I can't remember which Olympics was. Oh, 2000. It was 2008. It was 2008 Olympics.
Yeah.
I took the group up just to do this. I said, we're just going to stay 2 days. We're not going to just get on this machine, look at your stroke, look at the video. We're going to do an analysis, and then we'll get out of there. And when I was there, Peter Vanderkay was there, and there was a couple other guys there from Michigan, and Michigan's coach had just left, and Bob Bowman, right? You know that guy.
Barely.
And they were looking for a coach, and they asked me, "What do you think?" And I said, "Who wouldn't want to go to Michigan, right? It's got an incredible history." And anyway, I don't remember.
That was a big deal, Mike. I remember the swimming community going, where's Mike Bottom going to go? That was a big deal in the news back in 2008, man. It was a big deal, and they accepted you. So well done. Kudos on that, man. That was another notch in your belt, for sure.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Well, that was a scary place to go. I was a sprint coach going to a distance program.
I was going to mention that earlier. What John had created with with Vuda and Dolan and Namesnick, and then what Bob did, and now you. Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm going to ask you the question, because this is what I said to Josh at the very beginning. I said, Josh, we are not going to screw this program up. This is a distance program, and we're going to understand how they've done it over the years, and we are going to be better. We're going to be better, right? And
national champs 2013. Boom.
So that's what we did. We went, and Josh is, of course, is a systems guy. He's a systems guy. He's unbelievable, right? I'm a whiteboard guy. Never wrote a workout in a computer until I got to Michigan. And once at Michigan, every workout we did is on computer now. Every season plan is on computer. And Josh has helped, do this. We wrote workouts at the very beginning. I wrote a lot of workouts. John Urbanachek wrote a lot of workouts. Yeah. And we looked at what they were doing, right? And John gave us a bunch of workouts. And of course, I wasn't going to go through them and say, Josh, we look at these workouts. Let's figure out what they've been doing over the years. And we figured, John had his color system, but also John, if you know John doesn't tell you the truth. He doesn't tell you what he's doing. He doesn't lie, but he just, But his colors, what they were operating on, and what he described in the colors was not It was not what was going on. So what we did is we measured all the heart rates. We did, recorded stuff. We had all this data, and Josh was doing it, right? Because that's not me.
Well, like you mentioned, having elite athletes, having some objectives to it. I'm intrigued to know what you're currently using at Michigan, especially with Dr. Josh White. People don't know Josh that well, I don't think, and they don't realize how great of a mind he is in the sport. So right. I'd love to hear what you guys are currently using right now for objective measures with your elite athletes.
Well, we have all sorts of stuff, right? And we have what's the name of that company that's got the Triton wear? We were using a little of that. We use a lot of video, right? We have video all over the place, and we're actually going to install some more video this year because it's a really immediate feedback. Well, we use a lot of the same stuff that everybody uses, the timing in the ear, and as part of the speed thing, and but the new stuff is the Triton wear that we put on, and those are the distance guys. It's the sprinters. We have a machine that measures speed off the block, and it's pretty cool. It's a block that has all sorts of cameras on it, and it has force plates, and it's all connected to a computer.
That's awesome. So Luke just discovered endless pools this week. He's crazy stoked on it.
Oh my gosh. Go ahead, Brian, but yeah.
No, you're good. You're pumped on it. I know. I thought endless pool was a huge evolution in just being able to understand what was happening in real time. And when you were talking about, I remember what technologies we had in the day. I was going to age myself on this. We had TiVo. TiVo was still a thing.
We used TiVo for a long time, right? It was,
Well, I mean, honestly, you didn't need anything better because it was on, X delay, and then you could just do a start and then go back and watch it, and do a start and go back and watch it, and all this. So I mean, I think some more added camera angles would be great. I think we're seeing more camera angles in racing, which is really helpful to understand. Like, what does Ledecky's freestyle look like overhead? You know, like how do we see it from all angles?
You missed today. So John and I had our form. I had a pair of form goggles on. And John had it. So it's a temporal heart rate sensor. So I'm seeing a heads-up display of course, the yards I've swam because I lose count all the time and what time it is, whatever. But my heart rate when I'm swimming, that's fascinating to have your heart rate live when you're swimming. Because what happens when we swim? We touch the wall, count for 10, boom, give it to you, what have you. And I used to have all kind of anodes in the olden days. But to have it while you're swimming, to have it in the endless pool, to have like a 51 pace, have your time and your heart rate sensor, boom. That's incredible.
Potential over analysis, though. We cannot argue that, right? Having heart rate, who cares about what heart rate you go when you win a world record, right? Does it really matter?
That's adrenaline.
And these goggles, you're swimming with one goggle like this big, and it's linking on me, so it's all over the place.
They have to improve, but it's pretty cool. Come on.
So, Luke, I'm curious. So, how does that take your heart rate? Where does it take?
So Polar, which is has a sensor on your temporal artery right here.
Pulse rate, not heart rate. Pulse rate.
Pulse rate. Sorry, and it links it to the goggle, and you can see live. So when I did the NS pool yesterday, I was like, set it at 51 seconds for 100, and I went and I saw my heart rate going, and I saw it going up for the 100, and it really makes you think, like, am I starting to slip and make mistakes because I'm tiring, because I'm seeing my heart rate go up? So for self-analysis, for the mature swimmers who understand their body and their technique, you can see that. You can see I'm tiring. My fitness is bad, but so what adjustments do I make? We know it centrally, but to see a number go to 180, 190 and your heart rate going while you're swimming, that's nothing a coach can tell you. That's what you tell yourself. So I think that's the future, man.
And that's the thing that you have to use the right tools with the right swimmers these days. You can't. You're not going to put a heart rate monitor on a sprinter, right? Unless you want to tell them, unless you want to show them that they're not working hard, and then then that doesn't help anything, right? That's a great thing.
Put the blinders on the racehorse. You can't do it with everybody. Yeah, Mike, we got a few rapid fire questions for you.
Really?
Ready? Yeah.
I'm not very fast these days. So you're not going to get fast answers out of me.
54.9, dude. That's the last one I ever went.
All right, maybe we shorten the list. All right,
put the goggles on them.
What's the hardest race in swimming?
What's the hardest race?
Yeah.
Coaching. That's the toughest race right there.
I bet that's probably true. Which is the greatest sprint dynasty in college swimming history?
Oh. You got to go Auburn, right? Those years that you guys had all those crazy.
What did you say? Did you say Auburn?
Got to go. He's putting his cap. He's putting his cap on. He's ready to go.
Yeah.
I'm fired up. Name a swimmer that you just really loved to watch. There were people that I loved to watch. Anthony's one of them. Anthony's freestyle is absolutely beautiful, and every time that I see him sprint, I just love watching him swim. Who's somebody that you love to watch?
Well, you took it out of when I first saw Anthony swimming, he wasn't that fast. I think he was even in a console final, and that was in at the outdoor meet in Irvine. This is when I went back. I told Nort, I go, we got to get this guy. We got to recruit this guy. And it was between us and Stanford, and his mom wanted him to go to Stanford, of course, right? And so we, Anthony, when he showed up for recruiting, he would be the guy that any coach would go, oh my gosh, this no. He's slouching, he doesn't look at you when you talk to him, and you could tell he was not into whatever you were showing him.
Uh-huh.
But he was a great swimmer, and turned out to be and is a great friend at this point. So
that's awesome.
Anyway, yeah.
What's something that you've learned through coaching that you wish you could go back and impart on yourself as a swimmer?
I don't know. I think there's just so much. I don't ever say one thing. I think, the idea that there's a lot of ways to get things done. And here's a great lesson. The great lesson is, in any setting, you can always get better by a number of different things. And that's what we have to do as coaches is we can't get fixed on either technique, because sometimes they're not going to get them to change technique, or training, or nutrition, or stretching. I mean, there's just so many the mental aspect of things, there's just so many aspects to getting better. And I think that's what I would have opened my mind. How do you get better? How can I get better today? How can I get better right now? The way I think, the way I talk to myself, not just the workouts I'm doing, because that's the hard thing, is that as swimmers spend so much time in the water, they think that that's the most important thing, right? And it isn't. It isn't. And we're finding it out right now, aren't we? Right? That there's people that are swimming really fast and they haven't been doing shit. I mean, they've been sitting around, right? Or they've been doing something else to get better, right? So I guess did I answer the question?
Yeah. So, well, if you had to identify an area, it's kind of Nostradamus here. If is there an evolution that you see coming? I mean, people continue to get faster, right? Like your brother broke 20, and now there's a guy going 17 in the 50 free. So is there? And they're doing a lot of things different, right? What's something that's coming next? Is that it could be technique, nutrition, psychology? What's the next wave that's going to help people get faster?
Well, I think there's two things that are going on right now. We're getting great athletes, in the sport. I mean, they're just some great athletes. I mean, Katie Ledecky, what a great athlete, and Caleb, some great athletes, and the other thing that's happening, and it's unfortunate, and it's drugs, right? It's drugs, and there's a lot of athletes that are surpassing their potential, and they're doing it because they're taking drugs, and they're enhancing themselves. And look at the Chinese. I mean, the Chinese are just out of control right now. It was Russia, and I think the great thing about what happened in Rio is that they had all that craziness in Russia before Rio, right? So all of those athletes who were doing all of those things that were able to do them at World Championships in Russia and swim really fast, they stopped doing it, right? And so it opened up the door for the clean athletes. But that's just a small, and that was awesome, right? I'm glad I was there. And Anthony, it was so nice for Anthony, right? Because it wasn't just Russian athletes. There were a lot of athletes that stopped doing what they were doing, and they stopped it right away when things heated up.
Wow.
And I'm not sure that's ever going to happen again, truthfully, unless there's some sort of somebody who really wants to take it on. And that's, you take it on, you take on a lot of money. The corruption right now,
right,
higher levels. I don't know.
What's the most difficult situation you've ever had to navigate as a coach?
Here's a great situation. It was a situation that I wouldn't call it that difficult, but when in Athens, I think it was Athens when Gary got gold and Duje got silver. It was Athens, right?
Yep, it was Athens.
Yep.
And Bart Kizarowski.
Yeah, find out. Salim, maybe? No.
Salim was there.
Yeah.
Roland was in that. I think Roland was in there too.
Yeah.
But yeah. It was in can't remember. Maybe it was when Bart Kiszorowski got 8th place.
Yeah.
I know that was in Athens. That was I think it was in Rio. Or no, I'm sorry, in Sydney. But when that happened, when Bart got 8th and or maybe it was 5th, whatever it wasn't in a medal contention.
Yeah.
When Anthony and Gary got their medals and Bart didn't, and that was really tough because as a coach you want everybody. I go, why didn't we get 1, 2, 3? But you want everybody to be
first, Anthony, and Bart came 5th, and Popov came 6th. So he beat Popov.
Yeah. But I mean, I wanted, it was hard. Those guys were celebrating winning.
Yeah.
And I was looking at Bart's face, and that was a moment where I realized, there's something wrong here. That was pretty good, right? We did all right.
Yeah.
And I think that was a moment in my life where I go, dude, you really need to chill a little bit because you can't have it all. You can't give it all. So anyway.
Do you think that you benefited more from the boycott in 1980 than you would have actually going to the team?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That was, I look at what and once I became a coach, my intention to was, and it was a written intention, was to put more people on Olympic teams than were not on the 80 that didn't get to go in 80, right? And in 2016, that happened, right? In 2016, that happened, and that's when I got invited to be on the U.S. team. It was just a awesome experience to have that happen. And,
wow, good for you, man. That is awesome.
Yeah.
I got one more for you. So I mentioned some of the records that have gone down and barriers that have been broken. Again, I think I thought it was crazy seeing somebody go 20 point in a 50 free long course. We got guys going 46. Who knows how long until they go 45? How long do you think until somebody goes sub 20 in a 50 free long course?
I don't know. Yeah, dude, I get up 3 times to go to the bathroom at night. I'm not thinking about that stuff. That's just crazy. That's just crazy. You're way beyond me. Ask some young guy that has questions. Right?
I think it was 10 years from someone to go from 23 to get under 23 to under 22, and then 20.
Look, he's got it all calculated out. It's as if I'm hearing any of this, right?
It's crazy.
That's good, Brian. You just stay there. That's awesome. You just keep going there. You tell
Brian,
me
when is someone going to do it? Let's
when
ask
are they going to do it?
Ask Brian.
Brian, when are they going to break 20?
When?
In my lifetime.
In your lifetime?
I'm just going to say in my lifetime.
There you go.
Brian, you didn't ask Mike your question. Olympic gold medal or world record? I want Mike to think about that. Because he said, what would you want personally, Mike Bottom? Not the coach, but the swimmer.
Gold medal.
Wow.
Gold medal.
Yeah.
Because a gold medal, you represent your country.
Yeah.
You don't believe how many times I've cried when, those athletes that I've coached got gold medals and were able to see the flag come up. Oh, that's just so awesome, right? My dad told me when I was a kid, he looked down at me and he goes, Mike, if you don't get choked up when the Star Spangled Banner plays, if you don't, then you don't understand where you live. And I've taken that. He was in the military, went to Indianapolis. He was in Indianapolis Naval Academy. But, you get to hear the Star Spangled Banner play when you stand on the podium. Wonderful.
Mike, you've made such an impression on so many athletes. We talked about this, and we've spoken to a number of them. They're friends of ours. George, Milo, Duje, who's in Alaska right now with his beautiful family, Gary, who could not talk higher about you. I don't know who can't, unbelievable. I try to get to Gary let's talk to Gary about getting to know Gary and getting to know about technique, because Gary was a revolutionary in my mind back in '96, track starts and what he did. I said, Gary, what did you do different? He said, and he talked about his boxing and what he did out of the water review. And I talked to Duje. I said, I've partied with Duje. I know about Due's 3 a.m. dancing with the Mike Bottom stopwatch so he can get his aerobic capacity going. I know about that story, right? And Duje is the most lanky, chill guy. And he goes, look, I took 6 months off. I didn't swim. I just kickboxed. And I came and I broke the European junior record. First swim back because of kickboxing. So I brought these out for Duje and for Gary. 1 second. Justin, come in. Mike.
Oh, you got it.
Justin, what question you have the audience about Duje Jaganya, Gary Hall? To this day, he's still boxing and looks ripped. 46. He's younger than me. I look better. Talk about this. What's the question you got, Justin?
We got a question from A. John. Mike, are you using boxing style training on land or water circuits?
We did it. Now we're in land, but we've done them on water circuits. Gary was the one that started that. Gary Hull started swimming with the boxing gloves. That was awesome. I'm looking for a plug.
Swimming with boxing gloves. It's like the socks are
He
bad.
swam with boxing gloves?
Yeah.
Brian, John, can you imagine?
I can imagine. You can picture
I
it.
don't want to imagine, like.
But you had to be really connected, right? I mean, that was the idea, is that connection. You had to really be connected in order to punch the water. And that was the whole thing, the shoulder connection. I'll tell you a quick story about George. You want to hear a story about George?
Yeah.
We were doing
the story.
I got lots of stories, man. I could tell you guys stories all day. And I'm not even having beer. I drink. We put a couple beers in me, and we'll be here for hours.
I like 2 days, but okay, hours.
Plugged in, you can see I'm a little brighter now. I got some brightness. All right, so here's George. We're doing this thing in Isla Mirada. By the way, Gary Hall Sr. is an amazing individual. His support of swimming in the past has been crazy, and he's doing some new stuff. And he's got a book coming out, and I got a chance to read the book. It's awesome. So there you go, Gary. I just did it.
Yeah, anybody who doesn't follow Race Club on Instagram, you got to follow Gary Hall and what his race analysis, how he breaks down swimming right now on Instagram Live. It's fantastic. So Mike, fully agree. Gary, oh no.
Good job, Luke. You just kicked them off. You couldn't handle that plug.
Oh, and we've hit
no.
Or Mike
back.
That was going to be a good story.
Oh, here we go. He's back quick.
He's back.
You thought you lost me. You thought you got rid of me. That's like saying, all right, you thought you got rid of me. I'm here. So George. So we're doing this thing where we're running across. We're in Isla Mirada. We're running across, and we hit the dive well.
Yep.
The idea is to you just shoot across the dive well. So George figures out that if you skim across the water, it's the fastest. So literally, George, he didn't belly flop, but he did his body like this, and he skimmed across the water. Never sank in the water, and just skimmed across the water, and he just kicked everybody's butt. But I mean, that's the kind of innovation. All right. So how does that work with starts? Does that work with starts? Can we skim across the water? Or break in the water? I mean, yeah. Anyway, so that's how we got where we are with some of our sprinters. Is that they would just do some crazy stuff like that, and I would cheer them on.
But Mike, you also had your swimmers when they needed it. You said, you know what? Grab some kickboards and just chat it out. This social kick. Weren't you a big proponent of, you gotta go social kick. You gotta social
I'm
kick.
going to tell you, we started social kick, right? We
Oh.
started social kick. Social kick was not a thing until we started doing it. And the reason, I'll tell you why social kick started. It was the reason social kick started had nothing to do with coaches. You know how hard it is to get sprinters in the water? It's really tough.
We're all sprinters, except for that guy.
It's really tough. You can't get them in the water.
It's cold. No.
This is how we did it. We would say, all right, get in, you swim 200 and grab a board, and then you could talk forever, right? You guys could talk forever, right? And forever meant about a 300, right? Because that's about when that's enough for them, right? But it worked, right? Because they would, they'd say, oh, and they'd start talking to each other. No, you gotta wait, and I was able to work that one in to where they'd get in the water. Okay, all right, I want to talk about this, so I got to get in the water. So that's the way it started. And then you put it in different places, and Josh has even expanded it with balloons, right? Get balloons and throw a whole bunch of balloons for taper in, and they're kicking and popping balloons or knocking them back and forth. And anyway, that's how it started. So there you go.
Mike, what was Gary writing on himself? Gary would write things on the blocks before he goes in the water. I heard about this. Do you know that? Was it part of his routine, or is this too? Do you know about that?
What are we talking about?
Gary,
something here?
No, to get Gary motivated. I think Mike Bottom. I think Gary Hall Jr. Because of how he spoke to us, we got to know him a couple of weeks ago. He's just so intelligent, so smart, so connected, and how he was going to quit swimming in '95 until he met you, and he became one of the greatest American sprinter according to Nathan Adrian, which we agree.
Yeah, I think Gary was the greatest American sprinter at that time for sure. He changed the sport, right? Nathan learned from Gary, learned from the system. So how do you rank greatest? You rank greatest as those who have perpetuated themselves like Gary has, and I think that would give him that little edge over Nathan. Although you got Caleb coming up, and you're gonna have a tough time once he gets going. You're gonna have a hard time saying he's not gonna be the greatest. So anyway, Gary, I'm gonna tell you about Gary. Quick story. I come up to we're practicing, and in '95 I took over Gary's training. Gary Hall Sr. flew me out to take over his training, and it was because of Dean and the sprint crew at Auburn and kind of the rap that I got there. But I got in. I'm on deck. I'm with the coach that was there before, and I looking at Gary, and he is just going back and forth and back and forth. He doesn't do one flip turn. He's doing all open turns. And then the coach gets in my ear and says, "Can you believe that guy? No, he's doing open turns. He does blah, blah, blah." And I go, "Wow, that's pretty." So I walk up. He stops. I said, "Gary, that's amazing. That's a genius. You're a genius." He's looking at me like I'm crazy. I go, "You're not doing flip turns. You're doing open turns. Why?" I get it. Why do a flip turn if you can't do it fast? Why do slow flip turns? You screw yourself up. And he looked at me, gave me that look. And I knew I was gonna like that guy. We were right there. And then there was times when I'd walk on deck and I couldn't find him. And I go, "Where's Jeff? He's in the water." I couldn't find him. And I walk over, and I knew he'd be down there playing. So I walk over one time, and he was really not to be seen, and I couldn't find him. I look down and he's holding this block, center block, and he's kicking along the bottom. And just
That's a legend story that Nathan Adrian said. 50 meters on cinder block. Tell that story.
yeah, no, this was when he was just first starting it, right? And he already had the goal in his mind. He had the goal. He knew what he wanted to do. He wanted to go 50 meters underwater with a cinder block. I didn't know that. He had just started doing it, right? Where does it come from? The great thing about it, when Gary and I first hook up, it's like I just watched. A lot of times I'd say, all right, well, and I would look at him and we'd make up the workout at that time. And I'd say, well, how about this and this and this? And, I'd look at his face and I'd be able to read that. And I go, well, how about this? And anyway, we ended up doing really well and did well together. And it was a long relationship, which is great. Those are the kind of coaching relationships you just keep coming back to in your mind. And they're great. They're wonderful. So
I do wonder how many Gary Hall Juniors we've missed in our history.
Yeah.
There was only one Gary Hall Jr. You're never going to find another one of those.
Yeah, I know that.
But it was a wonderful experience in swimming, having Gary Hall Jr. there and not leaving in '95, wasn't it? Right? I mean, we can all.
He grew up sport. He made our sport big. Yeah.
Yeah, unbelievable. So, yeah, there were some really good times there, and Gary Hall Sr. was on the cutting edge of understanding what needed to be there for Gary Hall Jr. And the team, the sprint team, we assembled around him. The Dirty Dozen. We had the Dirty Dozen, and in 96. In 2000, it was sprint team 2000, and 2004. I think it was a race club. I think we were a race club 2004, 2008. World team 2004, and then race club.
Yeah.
But it was good. I mean, and Gary, we were doing things like having meals right at the pool, right after practice. Like we would practice. There was one time when I can't remember what year it was. We were in Phoenix, but I was driving with Gary, and we were going from this weight workout to the swim workout, and we stopped at McDonald's on the way to grab a few Big Macs or breakfast sandwiches, and I go, Gary, do you think we're doing enough aerobic? And he looked at me, and didn't even crack a smile. He just looked at me, the deadpan. He goes, Mike, and he just recited everything we were doing and we were going to do that day. And it was about 8 hours of practice of things that we were doing. And he goes, do you think we're doing enough aerobic? I go, yeah, we're keeping that heart rate up for quite a while, aren't we? He goes, yeah.
Mike, he said 21-7 in 2008 trials where he beat Brian Lundquist. He overtrained and he had a bad race. Could Gary have gone faster in 08?
When was that?
In 08 trials when he beat Brian Lundquist. Then he tell us guys that he overtrained for that 21-7. Yep. He came fourth. I mean,
yeah,
can you imagine?
Probably. Yeah. 2008.
Yeah. 21-7. He was the godfather of swimming at that point, and Brian Lundquist stepped on his cake and pulled his cape back and choked him, and that's why he didn't make the Olympic team. I blame Brian Lundquist.
We all do. His cape, not his cake. Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know. Probably.
I know.
Maybe. Mike, it's been fun hanging out with you. Are you on the socials? Where can people keep up with you?
I have Twitter and Instagram, but I'm not as diligent on either one of them as I want. UMich Swim Dive is you get a lot of stuff there, and then Athlete Approved we'll throw some stuff up there. But
right on. Cool. Well, thanks for hanging out with us. Don't go anywhere. Hang on for a minute. We're going to sign off here. That's it for this episode of the Social Kick Podcast.
Those are some great memories. Thank you.
We'll see you again next week. Hang on, Mike. All right. See y'all.